When you close your eyes, the world does not disappear, it merely changes form. The light signals that once flooded your retina are replaced by inner vibrations. The frequency of a thought, of a feeling, travels through the body faster than any physical velocity. At the quantum level, every particle of energy within you instantly rearranges into waveforms that match the emotion you choose. It is not imagination, but operation. Emotion does not reside in you, you reside within its field. And when that field stabilizes, the world begins to mirror your new image, like a screen of obedience made of light. You cannot deceive the energy field with words, but you can teach it through vibration. A person who says, "I am happy," but carries the frequency of lack in their heart, sends a conflicted signal, and reality merely reflects that same conflict. Yet when you truly feel it is already done, even before it happens, the body becomes the biological proof of that belief. The breath slows, the heart harmonizes, alpha waves expand, the nervous system believes it is happening, and the material world, which is only the outer layer of the information field, reorganizes itself as if it had always been there, merely waiting for you to be still enough to perceive it. This is not positive thinking, but an identity shift. When you feel that you already are, the DNA opens the corresponding genes, the endocrine system restructures, and microenergy streams are re-encoded. Emotion is a command code. Each time you vibrate in the frequency of gratitude, the body emits an electromagnetic field coherent with that frequency, drawing in photons carrying corresponding information. This is not magic, but the subtle mechanics of consciousness. The less you force, the more order appears. The more you trust, the more you see the universe aligning itself. In an ordinary day, when you sit quietly and gently close your eyes, just recall the feeling that everything is already all right, and you will hear the stillness beneath the noise. Within that stillness, all possibilities vibrate in parallel, waiting for someone present enough to choose. When you choose through emotion rather than logic, you redirect the quantum flow. From that moment on, the world is no longer a place you wait to change. It is a being learning to reflect you more truthfully. There is no action stronger than a stable state. When you truly feel, every action becomes naturally precise. You speak differently, breathe differently, walk differently, without effort, like a frequency broadcasting on its correct wave. All things tune in. The world is not against you. It is imitating the signal you emit. So do not ask, "How do I achieve?" Ask, "Who am I vibrating as?" And when you realize that everything begins from feeling, you understand that the miracle is not in the future, but in the present, deep enough to touch. When you shift the frequency of the present, the timeline bends, events reorder, people appear, doors open, not because you attract, but because you have become the central cause. Feel first. The world follows. That is the simplest law of creation. And when you truly live from it, the world stops resisting, for it recognizes you are speaking the only language the universe understands. Feeling. When you enter a space, energy does not merely surround you, it repositions itself according to how you are present. The electromagnetic field around the heart radiates before you speak, and every photon in the room senses it. It is not people who recognize you, but space itself. When the inner state stabilizes, you become the nucleus of order. There is no need to impress or control others. The silence within you is strong enough to organize surrounding vibrations like a stable nucleus guiding electrons back to orbit. You once walked through the world as though needing acceptance, yet the irony is that only when you stop demanding, energy begins to obey. You do not possess, you synchronize. The state of mastery arises not from external power, but from the inner rhythm aligned with the rhythm of the universe. When you stand firm in your own frequency, space responds like a still lake before wind. A single breath from you creates ripples. Every room holds a temporary soul, the sum of the fields of people, objects, and thoughts once present. When you enter, that energy scans your frequency in an instant. If you carry chaotic vibration, you will be pulled into its disorder. If you carry a calm vibration, the field will adjust to match. That is why some people can silence a crowd without a word, not because they hold authority, but because they carry the frequency of order. Order does not impose, it attracts. When you understand this mechanism, you stop behaving like a guest in the house of life. You enter as the consciousness of the space itself, not because you own it, but because you are its extension. The light that falls upon your face is no different from the light touching the wall. There is no real boundary between you and room, only the interaction of fields. The more you perceive this, the more natural you become. The more natural, the smoother the energy, the smoother it flows, the softer the world becomes under your invisible hand. In mastery, there is no struggle, no craving for approval, no fear of rejection. You do not try to claim a place in life, for you already are the space. Others feel it through subtleties, the gaze, the breath, the weighted silence. When you are fully present, everything adjusts, conversations clarify, conflict dissolve like mist. Even inanimate objects begin aligning along harmonious lines. Space does not listen to your words, it listens to your frequency. The quieter you are, the more coherent the field. The truer you are, the purer the energy. Remember, the world does not respond to words, it responds to state. Mastering space is not something to train for years, but to remember that you have always been the heart of that order. When you enter and take a deep breath, there is no need to influence you, only need to be. And when you truly are, space bows, not out of fear, but because it recognizes itself within you, in the human form, standing still amid infinite vibration. When the night closes and all the noises of the world fade away, there is a moment when your consciousness opens quiet, fragile, yet immensely powerful. It is the golden hour before sleep. Brain waves slow from beta to alpha, then dissolve into theta like a windless lake. The gate between consciousness and the subconscious cracks open, and what you feel in this instant becomes the seed planted into the deepest soil of the soul. What do you usually do before you sleep? Embrace worry, or embrace peace. Be honest with yourself, because that very moment shapes the form of tomorrow. The subconscious does not distinguish between real and imagined. It only records vibration. When you lie down with fear, the body contracts, energy freezes, and that frequency is stored as a command. But when you soften, breathe deeply, let the heart open, and whisper a complete image, as if what you desire has already become real. The energy field instantly shifts. The strands of DNA within you light up like billions of filaments, and the universe records that signal, beginning to rearrange reality to match the new frequency. This is not a spiritual ritual, but the science of awareness. This golden hour is the portal between two worlds, where you stop controlling and begin creating in silence. When you learn to use it, life becomes the reflection of a conscious dream. Do not underestimate the images you imagine before drifting to sleep. They are not fantasies, but the quantum blueprint for the future. Feel your breath. Let it become the bridge between mind and body, between you and the whole. As you inhale, you invite new energy. As you exhale, you release what no longer belongs. If tonight you do one thing only, choose to feel as if everything is already fine. You do not need to force belief, only to feel. That feeling will flow into every cell, every nerve, and during sleep, your subconscious will begin rewriting the old code. The world you see tomorrow does not arise from effort, but from the state you entered before closing your eyes. Sleep is not the end of a day, but the gateway where you are reborn in a new frequency. I want to ask you one thing. Tonight, what emotion will you bring into sleep? Fear or faith? Are you willing to relax? Place your hand on your chest and feel that everything you desire already exists within your field. If this message touches you, leave a comment below. I want to know your energy is here, truly present. And if you wish for us to continue exploring deeper on this journey of awakening, press subscribe so we stay connected in the space between thought and light. Your presence, even in a single line, is the most precious thing to a creator like me. I am grateful that you are here. In this moment, between breath and the stillness of the universe, Let this night be the beginning of a new cycle, where you no longer ask for miracles, but become one. You were always told that to achieve something, you must find a way, but methods operate only on the physical layer, while the true cause lies in the energetic one, where all forms are born. When you cling to how, you operate within the frequency of lack. The state of not yet creates a reality of still not. Only when you change the state does the entire network of probabilities begin to rearrange itself to match. The universe does not respond to action, but to the energy field behind action. State is the foundation of every result. When you act from fear, even the perfect strategy breeds chaos. But when you act from calmness, every choice, however small, becomes precise. That is why the same behavior, the same words, create completely different outcomes, because the emitted energy differs. Method is technique. State is frequency. Technique can never surpass frequency. Observe a truly successful person. They do not do more than others. They simply act in a different state. When they speak, their voice carries the code of certainty. When they walk, their field informs the space that they are already there. They do not ask how to be trusted, for in their state, trust already exists. They do not try to persuade, for they are the frequency of what they speak. And you, if still chasing a better method, it means you have not yet touched the original state, the state of the one who already has. At the quantum level, state is a coordinate. You do not search for what you want. You shift into the version of yourself already living that reality. Methods, strategies, opportunities, all are bridges that appear once the frequency aligns. Every effort is only an intermediate step to remind you that effort is not required. When the state is right, action becomes a natural consequence. When the state is wrong, action creates more resistance. Emotion is the first signal of state. If you are tense, afraid, or hurried, it means you are not aligned with the desired outcome. Pause not to escape, but to recalibrate. 1 minute of stillness is worth more than hours of running in the wrong frequency. The universe does not measure time. It measures the stability of energy, and when your energy stabilizes, the flow appears without scheming or struggle. This is not a philosophy of laziness, but the operating principle of consciousness. Action is still needed, but it must arise from a deeper layer of clarity, not from lack. When you act from the state of already having, everything carries the taste of wholeness and creation, without the scent of fear. Lightness is not apathy, it is the sign of alignment. State is the key. It precedes all plans, methods, and efforts. The world does not care what you do. It mirrors who you are in that moment. When you understand this, you stop seeking to achieve and begin choosing the state you wish to radiate. Because the very moment you choose, reality starts moving to correspond with you. The search ends. What remains is the remembrance that what you desire was never outside. It was only waiting for you to return to your own frequency. The moment you open your eyes is not merely the awakening of the body, but the ignition of your entire energy field. In that first second, the brain waves have not yet divided dream from reality. The subconscious remains open, and every emotion you choose instantly sets the phase for the whole day. The unawakened let habit pull them back into old streams of thought, to-do lists, worries, unfinished memories. But those who understand the law of frequency know that this first instant is the switch of the entire system if you turn it on correctly. The day flows straight. If you turn it wrong, even the smallest things fall out of sync. The switch is not in thought but in state. When you first open your eyes, pause for half a beat and let the breath call the soul back into the body. Feel your palms. Hear your heartbeat. Notice the dim light through your eyelids. That is the universe greeting you. Do not rush for the phone. Do not dive into action. Simply define the feeling you wish to carry through the day. Peace, clarity, or gratitude. Choose one frequency and let the body sense it as a real wave. Once the feeling is activated, the entire nervous system aligns, and the energy you emit draws the world into rhythm with it. Each morning, the universe is reprogrammed through you. the people you meet, the events that unfold, the chances that appear or fade, all are chain reactions from the energy field you emit in the first hour. If you wake in gratitude, the brain releases serotonin, the heart expands, the muscles relax, the immune system strengthens. But if you wake in anxiety, the body signals defense, energy contracts, and the day plays out in survival frequency. Between these two versions, it is not the world that differs, it is you. Once you understand this switch, no elaborate ritual is needed. One deep breath is enough to change frequency. Imagine that as you inhale, light floods every cell. As you exhale, fragments of old thoughts fade like smoke. Let the body remember, it is a device that adjusts reality, and your consciousness is the current running through it. When you choose to start in stillness, you are telling the universe you are ready to co-create on the highest frequency, and the universe, an intelligent system, responds immediately. Morning is not the beginning of a day. It is the programming frame. Every intention, word, and action afterward is simply the result of the energetic configuration you initiated. When you see the first light, it is not merely sunrise but a signal. You have been reborn. Let the morning switch be a small yet sacred ritual, where you awaken not just to live, but to choose the kind of energy you bring into the world. The world does not need another busy person. It needs an awakened one. An awakening does not begin with what you do, but with how you open your eyes. Each day, you feed your mind thousands of bits of information, hundreds of emotions, dozens of conversations. That is your mental diet. It is not only food that nourishes the body, but thought that nourishes the soul. The body becomes healthy through selective nutrition. The mind works the same way. Yet most people let their minds eat indiscriminately negative news, unconscious comparisons, old conversations drained of energy. Then they wonder why they feel weary, why faith weakens. They do not see they are energy-starved while full of mental debris. Every thought is an energy particle, every emotion a chemical form. When you repeat negative thoughts, your body releases the same stress hormones and gradually becomes addicted to them like sugar. You grow dependent on emotional storms simply because they are familiar, like eating spicy food until the tongue grows numb. You lose the taste of stillness. A mental diet is the art of returning to the original flavor of mind: clear, light, neutral, bright. You must know what you feed your consciousness. Every story you hear, every piece of news you read, every person you speak with is energy you digest. Some people speak for 5 minutes and make you feel clearer, as if purified. Others utter a few words and your field grows heavy. No one is innocent in the frequency they emit, and you have the right to choose. Refusing what disturbs your vibration is not selfishness but energetic hygiene. Just as the body needs detox, the mind needs time to fast from noise. A mental diet is knowing when to read and when to be silent, when to speak and when to breathe. Sometimes silence is the most nourishing meal. In silence, layers of static settle, and you begin to hear the primordial voice within the voice of pure awareness, unconditioned by thought. When you start feeding on light, nurturing yourself with luminous thoughts, honest emotions, words of power, you become lighter, clearer, and naturally wish to radiate it. The mind is a field, and thoughts are seeds. If you sow fear each morning, do not be surprised when by evening you harvest anxiety. If you sow gratitude, you will reap serenity. You do not need new ways to be positive, only a new diet. Less noise, less reaction, less absorption of what does not nourish the soul. When the inner space is cleansed, high energy arises on its own. The physical world is fed by food. The spiritual world is fed by attention. Pay attention to what you attend to. Where attention goes, life flows. And if you choose to direct that life toward stillness, clarity, and compassion, that energy will in turn nourish you. A mental diet is not rigid discipline, but love for your own inner purity. A love that knows what to receive, when to stop before overload, and when to be silent so the soul can breathe. Everything around you is speaking not through words but through energy structure. the room you live in, the desk you sit at, the light falling on the wall, all are maps of your inner world projected into matter. Order or chaos in the environment is the state of mind revealed. Those with a clear mind live in spaces with breathing room. Those restless and fearful are surrounded by unnecessary things. The environment does not betray you. It reflects precisely who you are. A cluttered room is not a matter of aesthetics, but a system where energy cannot circulate. Every object stores a fragment of emotional memory. When you hoard too much, old energy becomes viscous, making the living field heavy. You call it lack of inspiration or fatigue, but it is energy trapped in the space you created. When you clean, you are not just arranging objects, you are untangling the mind. When light passes through a freshly wiped window, it is not just dust disappearing, but new energy allowed to flow. The environment is the extension of your nervous system. A tidy desk lets thought signals travel faster, like circuits free of interference. Sound, scent, color, physical order, all form an interface between consciousness and the world. When you choose cleanliness and simplicity, you are declaring to the universe that you are ready for new energy flow, and the universe, operating by resonance, immediately sends you matching frequencies, clarity, creativity, and smooth movement. Just as a mirror cannot reflect when covered in dust, consciousness cannot mirror reality when the environment is clouded by disorder. Cleaning space is clearing the path for light to pass through you. When you hold an object, ask, does its energy still align with me? If not, thank it and release it. Everything you keep should remind you of life, not fear or the past. Letting go is not losing. It is returning objects to their natural frequency. When you enter a place and feel light, it is because the space has been purified by peaceful frequency. Conversely, some rooms make you want to leave without knowing why. That is the field of resistance, of unreleased energy. Be subtle enough to sense and adjust, for you are the architect of your living field. When the environment brightens, your mind brightens. When your mind brightens, the environment glows even more. This feedback loop is consciousness, self-tuning. The environment is a mirror, but also a laboratory. If you want to know your frequency, look around. No need to judge, only observe. Everything you see is a signal from yourself. Once you understand, keeping your space clear is no longer duty but joy. You begin to live as an energy artist, arranging, refining, allowing life to flow through you naturally. And when you walk into a room, you need not bring light. You are the light, reflected across every surface that looks back at you. When you are truly at ease, energy flows like water through frictionless wires. The body softens, thoughts settle, and every system within you enters a state of superconductivity where signals from consciousness transmit into matter almost instantly. In physics, superconductivity is the movement of energy without loss. In awareness, ease is the soul's superconductive state. No resistance, no force, only pure current between intention and manifestation. You do not need to strive to create what you want, for energy is already permitted to move in its most natural direction. People mistake ease for laziness, yet they are entirely different frequencies. Laziness is blocked energy, ease is transparent flow. When you resist life's current, you create electrical resistance tension, doubt, fear, all forms of noise that slow consciousness. But when you trust, allow, and stop trying to control the outcome, your inner system instantly lowers resistance, and miracles occur. Ease is not abandoning goals, but removing friction from the journey. Notice, in moments of deep peace, everything aligns effortlessly. The call arrives on time. The idea appears. The person shows up. This is not coincidence. It is the refined physics of synchrony. Ease is the state where you are light enough to catch higher-order signals. When tense, consciousness narrows. When at ease, consciousness expands, and you begin to hear how the universe speaks a language without words. Synchronicity, inspiration, intuition, subtle movements carrying signs of the greater pattern. Ease marks one who has transcended fear. When you trust that the universe is wiser than personal intellect, you stop interfering. You still act, but your actions are light as breath. You no longer chase outcomes, you let them drift toward you. Water does not fight its course, yet it shapes stone. That is the power of frictionless energy. In ease, will does not vanish. It refines, becoming the will of the whole, not the ego. Many cannot relax because they fear losing control. But control is the illusion of an anxious mind. When you truly trust the mechanics of energy, you no longer need to grip. You realize that what leaves never belonged to your field, and what arrives cannot be missed. From there, your mind expands naturally. Breath deepens, vision widens, energy moves with subtle precision. That is when you enter the superconductive state where everything passes through you without loss. Ease is not a state to achieve, but one to allow. It has always existed beneath effort. Just stop, allow, breathe. In that breath, you hear the echo of the universe aflow, without the separation of doer and deed. When you return to original ease, all desire falls away, leaving pure energy, creating life by itself. And then you realize, you are not directing the flow, you are the flow. And because of that, everything becomes perfect. Everything you are experiencing today is not truly the present, but the delayed image of the thoughts, emotions, and frequencies you once emitted, like the light of a star that left millions of years ago and only now reaches your eyes. Reality is the late reflection of past energy. When you understand this, you stop arguing with circumstances. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But see clearly, this is only the delay of what I once radiated. Everything in the material world moves slower, for energy needs time to take form. The past exists nowhere except in your mind. Yet if the mind is not awake, it keeps projecting the same film over and over. Each time you remember, judge, or regret, you reactivate the same frequency. And the universe, faithful like a feedback system, can only return the signal you are transmitting. That is why many say they are stuck in truth. They are living within the delayed shadow of old films. Once you realize you are rewatching the past, you can set down the remote and step out of the screen. Awakening begins when you stop believing what happens is new. Each experience is merely the final stage of an old energy sequence dissolving. If you react, you feed it, prolonging the delay. If you remain silent, aware, and refuse to energize it further, the past fades like old waves on the sea. This is the art of non-interference, letting the old fall away. In the light of understanding, when you stop resisting, all outdated energy releases itself. The delayed shadow of the past also lives in the body. A reflex, a tension, an unhealed wound are energetic memories. The body stores every emotion not yet digested, replaying them through actions, voice, and gaze. But the moment you breathe slowly and feel without judgment, you begin decoding. When awareness touches that memory, cells change structure, bioelectrical rhythm shifts, and the past is released from the present. The body does not need time to heal, it only needs you to stop resisting. What you see around you, people, events, opportunities are data of the past, dissolving. You do not need to fix them. You only need to live in the state you wish to become. When you choose a new frequency, the delay cannot attach. The world may continue reflecting the old for a while, but you know it is only the slowness of physics, not a fault in you. Peace arises when you stop seeking causes outside and realize everything is merely passing to disappear. The shadow of the past is not an enemy but a slow-motion film, helping you study your own energy, showing what you once believed, feared, or loved. When you view it with stillness, you are no longer trapped in the story. The past closes like smoke dissolving in morning air. Only a transparent present remains, where energy no longer echoes the old, but begins creating anew. In that moment, you understand freedom comes not from changing the future, but from ceasing to live in yesterday's shadow. There is an invisible covenant you signed before you came here, a covenant between the soul and the source. It was not written in language or letters, but exists as vibration. In that covenant, you agreed to temporarily forget who you are so you could learn to remember. You agreed to experience loss to understand the value of being. You agreed to move through limitation, not to suffer, but to awaken cosmic memory within every cell. Everything you encounter is not punishment, but a reminder that you are still on your way home. The source does not command it, transmits signals. The events, the people you meet, the turns that seem wrong, all are characters of that covenant being read aloud through life. When you stop seeing them as trials and start seeing them as invitations, resistance dissolves. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But "What is this awakening within me?" In that question, energy shifts. You step from victim to co-creator. From that moment, you begin to speak the frequency of the source. The source is not separate from you. It is the deepest layer of awareness. When you are still, it speaks through silence. When you are open, it answers through synchronicity. You need not plead, for every plea carries the frequency of lack. You only need to attune. When you feel gratitude, you are not sending energy upward, but opening your own channel. From there, ideas arrive, people appear, doors open, and what you once called miracle becomes the natural response of an energy field aligned with a greater order. The covenant with the source never promised ease, it promised meaning. The meaning of a mistake is expansion. The meaning of pain is purification. The meaning of collapse is rebirth. When you understand this, you stop fearing dark phases. You realize darkness does not destroy you, it tempers you. So the returning light will be purer. The awakened do not avoid waves, they learn to breathe within them. Every breath, every tear, every quiet moment is a small ritual of that covenant, a reminder that you and the source were never apart. If you are reading these words, perhaps something deep within you is remembering your own covenant. You came not to seek perfection, but to live fully within the journey home. See your life as a symphony, where low notes are not mistakes, but depth. Do not rush to fix the rhythm, just hold the center. When you hold the center, every outer rhythm finds harmony. And if there is one message I would leave you, it is this: do not measure your path by speed, but by stillness. Do not ask when, ask in what state. Each morning, when you wake, whisper to yourself, "Today I choose to align with the source." That sentence alone can change your frequency and cause reality to adjust around you. You need not prove or deserve, only remember, for the source never left you. It still breathes with you, sees through your eyes, creates through your actions. The covenant is not far away. It lives in every heartbeat. And when you live with gratitude, act with awareness, and walk with presence, you are signing that covenant anew with your own light.